Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to F1 22 League Racing. Yes, 2023 we're going to be jumping back into some leagues here on the second channel, and today I sort of wanted to talk through what was going to be happening. So at the time of recording, I'm going to be starting an LCR this weekend and then WOR in a couple of weeks time. So I thought, we'd showcase my time trial laps and my race submission ready for WOR. Now, LCR is quite a small league, it's very, very friendly between me and quite a few mates there, so we don't have to do sort of a TT or process like that, but WOR is an absolutely massive league, so you've got to do time trials and a race simulation run to get yourself an accurate representation and put you in a split that hopefully you'll be competitive in. So today, we're going to run through both of my time trial laps from Australia and Suzuka, and then I'm also going to show you my race sim run. It's not quite going to be a full video, but it should be very, very good fun. But of course, if you're new around here, you haven't clicked that big red button down below as well, make sure you do so for more F1 22 League Racing content. This is going to be the home, of course, of my competitive stuff. My team, all the career modes are going to still be going onto the main channel. But yeah, let's get into this then. I'm going to show you the hot laps and their setups, and then we're also then going to go into my race sim run. Well, there we go then, up over the line. That is going to be a 1 minute 17.410 there. Puts us about 1.5 seconds away from the world record here on Xbox, and to be honest, I'm quite happy with that. I haven't league raced in a very, very long time on the F1 games there, so yeah, you know what, I'll absolutely take it. Having a quick look then at our setup as well. You guys have been asking me constantly if I can do setup guides and things like that, so, maybe I will do for the tracks that we do league racing on. Perhaps I'll do some here on the second channel, maybe even over on my clips channel as well there. But 1,444th in the world at the time of recording. I was quite happy with that, about a 10th away from a couple of my good friends there, Connor and Luke, so yeah, pretty happy with that lap time. And then having a look then at the setup, you can see obviously 1820 wings. I like to run quite high downforce on F1 22, 60-55 on the differential and transmission. It's just what I've always ran on this game. Minus 3.3, minus 1.8, 0.08, 0.29, 74, 7457 for our suspension settings. 150%. I run that everywhere on F1 22, and then 23, 23, 21.3, 21.3 there as well on the diff. Let's head over to Suzuka.
Okay, our best lap so far is a 1:29.2.
DRS then and back over the start. Finished on a 129.11 there. So again, puts us about 1.2, 1.3 seconds off the best times in the world. I struggle a bit more with Suzuka. It's not my favourite track on F122, and of course we all know just how sensitive the curbs can be around this track as well there. But yeah, pretty happy with that. And having a look then over on our setup, you can see 1,200th in the world that time round. But you'll notice quite a lot of things fairly similar to the Albert Park circuit. They're slightly different aerodynamics and transmission, as you would expect. They're pretty much identical though on the suspension geometry. They're 848456 on the suspension though, again 5100 on the brakes, and then 2323 actually on all four tyres this time running, so running a lot more rear tyre pressure around Suzuka. But yeah, let's get in then to my racing run. I decided to live commentate this one, so let's head over to Zandvoort. Right, well here we are then, ready for my race simulation run for WOR. We've got to do a 50% race around the Zandvoort circuit today. So yeah, I mean, not a track that I particularly enjoy doing, but equal car performance as well, of course. And we will be rocking our Alfa Romeo, of course, should be the car that I'm using throughout the entirety of WOR as well there. But we need to do one-shot qualifying just to make sure that we're starting at the front of the field. Like I said, a 50% race, and I think I've just got to check like weather settings and various bits and pieces. The other thing I've got to remember to do is just bring down the AI level as well to make sure that we, you know, don't get messed around battling with the AI, of course. We've got to make sure that they're a pit stop behind by the time we get to lap 16. So, 94, we might bring it down just to 90. It's that fine balance between making sure they're far enough behind, but also that I'm not going to lap them by the end of the race. But I think everything's all set up. Let's get into it. Those of you that are wondering what sort of setups I'm going to be running then on F122, of course, Zandvoort, very, very downforce sensitive. So we're going to run 3840 on the wings there, and pretty much everything else I'm going to run sort of my standard settings on this game. You know, I like to make, you know, my own setups. You know, I've got very accustomed to driving a certain way on F122 as well. So yeah, these are the settings that I'm going to be running here in Zandvoort. I might, you know, for those of you that keep asking me about doing a setup series as well, I might try and incorporate that in the future, you know, with LCR and WOR. No matter where we're going to be racing, of course, we should have a good chance. But I better now put it on pole. I better not bottle this qualifying lap. Around in the final corner then. Luckily, of course, we're not based on the time trial or the one-shot qualifying time that we do, because this lap has been awful. But we are still going to get pole there by a small margin over Charles Leclerc. There we go, that's absolutely critical. Let's get into the race. Here we are then, trackside for the Dutch Grand Prix, and what we have to do is make sure that I box at the end of lap 16. If I don't pit at the end of 16, our race, it's void. It's null and void, and they're going to have to do the whole thing again. So, I mean, I don't really fancy doing more Zandvoort races than I absolutely have to. We also apparently have to put, I think it was 53 laps worth of fuel exactly, but I need to double check that quickly. Yep, sorry, 53 kilos of fuel was the number we were looking for. And let's get into this then, here for WOR. And I've put a formation lap on. That's not what I should have done. Setting up everything again and having to do our qualifying once more. There, 53 kilos of fuel in the car. It is going to box us at the end of 16. So 16 laps on the mediums, 20 laps on the hards. Need to try and make sure that we get a good start here, not to lose time behind the Dutchman. And it's 5 red lights and lights out, and away we go. And rather unsurprisingly, there I'm going to lose places at the start. Not going to do me any favours. So we should get a warning for a collision with Max Verstappen there. Sorry, George Russell even. Just on the outside, we'll get a warning for a collision with him as well. So, yeah, not the ideal start to this race, but I think no matter what sort of AI I'm going up against, I'm never really going to get a good start on F122, it would appear. Like I said, though, these AI are rather slow, so we will send it to the inside of Charles Leclerc. Like I said, we've just got to try and get back round him as early as possible. We've got to try and manage the battery as well, of course, today. Everything like that, and like I said, the big one is just making sure that we're consistent, and also that we box at the end of lap 16. You know, this is sort of what League Racing has become since I last did. It's kind of why I wanted to take you all on this adventure, because, you know, there is so many bits and pieces and intricacies now that leagues do to try and make sure that things are competitive and fair, of course, for everyone, as surely we're going to be close enough to Max Verstappen back in towards turn 1. Big dive bomb there on the Dutchman, and Alfa Romeo lead this race, although Max Verstappen's going to try and come back at me off the corner. Still not doing myself any favours in that regard, but we are through. We should now be able to pull away, and yeah, it's not quite going to be like a normal 50% race. It is going to be 10 minutes max, hopefully, unless I start waffling. as well. I'm so out of practice of driving the equal cars on F122, so races like this are probably quite good actually for me, just to make sure we're learning again. But yeah, going to try and just keep battery usage pretty consistent. Just not going to obviously push to the absolute extremes either, you know, don't want to make any mistakes or anything like that. It does say, you know, you can use rewinds if you make a major error, but I'm going to hopefully try to avoid that. But, I mean, yeah, we very rarely make mistakes anyway on F122, and you guys know if you watch over on my main channel, if I do make mistakes, I tend to leave them in the videos as well, so, yeah, hopefully it won't be an issue. Of course, we all know as well just how bad Zandvoort is for ERS regen, so we just need to be careful with that about the entirety of today. But settling in, it looks like we're going to be setting sort of 14s to low 15s. We can just keep that up until lap 16, that would be quite good. I think I've worked out as well, of course, why they've used Zandvoort is obviously if you've not enabled strict corner cutting. I did double check, I have done so. Yeah, obviously Zandvoort, there's no real places where you can corner cut as such, so that's probably why they did pick this track, no matter how much I dislike it. Well, right in the final corner, then about to start lap 10. I think every lap so far I've done has been a 15.0 or quicker. Just starting to use a little bit more battery, of course, because we won't need it. Or we'll gain some back, of course, when we're in the pit lane, so don't have to worry too much about that. Other thing I find fascinating, equal cars, of course. Max Verstappen is still romping away from the rest of the AI. I think it's because Leclerc and Russell are battling. I think. Accidentally just set a new personal best for the day. Just trying to work out a few things still with the Zandvoort circuit, but that's reassuring. Clearly the tyres perhaps getting a bit of a second wind. Well, Zandvoort is always one of those tracks that I'm quite scared to push on early on in a stint, but we do seem to get more confident with it, as that time round another 1 minute 14.5, but you're going to be pitting onto hards in just a couple of laps. Well, tyre wear warning light has just flashed up at the end of lap 16, but luckily, of course, that's going to be something we're going to have to be careful about when I get into some league racing, about just making sure that I manage the tyre wear, as just about get the car slowed down then into the pit lane. Of course, luckily Alfa Romeo right down the far end of the lane, but yeah, Max Verstappen 11 seconds clear of anyone else in equal machinery at the moment. Charles Leclerc, I think, is still holding up George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, but onto hards then to the checkered flag. Just got to make sure we get them up to temperature on this outlap and continue to push on. 20 more laps to go here from Zandvoort. Just got to see it through, and luckily, yep, we are ahead of everyone else that we needed to be. Right, well, we should see everyone else then into the pits at the end of this lap. 1:32 for our outlap there. Doesn't seem too bad, I suppose, but as long as we're back sort of, I think, I'd imagine we're probably going to be in the low 15s now on the hards, but we might be a little bit quicker with less fuel. Okay, perhaps these tyres are going to be a bit quicker then. 14.3 first lap. Let's see how often we can stay close to that. 14.2, getting faster and faster, but yeah, just got to make sure that we're not using too much battery either. 14.1. We are getting closer and closer to those 1 minute 13s, but again, I feel like I have used a bit too much battery over the last couple of laps. Just want to make sure we've got a little bit to use every lap to the end. Oh, another new PB, still in the 14.1s. But yeah, that one wasn't even really pushing for it, just got the lap seemingly hooked up much better. Definitely as the fuel burns off though, the car is getting quicker, so we've just got to try and make sure that we balance these hard tyres. 2 thousandths of a second quicker. We're nothing if not consistent at the moment, but yeah, I'm worried that we're actually going to get close to a couple of cars by the end of this. It is only going to be in the last few laps. I think there was one of the McLarens has actually pit again. My bet would be that's Daniel Ricciardo. But, yep, 12 to go here from Zandvoort. We are just ticking off the laps, and it's been quite a good learning experience so far. So again, we go even faster in Sector 1, because really have just built up a lot of confidence in the car as this race has gone on. We definitely struggled early, just to sort of remember what the equal cars handle like. George Russell out of this GP at 2/3 distance then. We've gone purple Sector 1, purple Sector 2. Are we going to get another fastest lap on the board? Will it be a 13? Yes, it will. 13.8 that time. Trying not to feel like I'm pushing ridiculously, but 12 to go. We've just got to see it through. Looks like it might be the Brits that are cursed this afternoon. Lando Norris now appears to be going slowly down the front straight. Perhaps I should have just disabled mechanical failures altogether. I'm not even sure you can, to be honest, on F122, but yep, that's going to be 2 gone in about 3 laps. The purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 up over the line, 13.77. Well, I've done that as a tribute to Valtteri himself, of course, rocking the number 77. But, yeah, 8 laps to go, technically. That would have been more poetic if it was 7 laps to go. Just still learning, you know, which curbs you can nudge, which ones you absolutely want to avoid like the plague. We are looking pretty comfortable. Well, 3 laps to go then. I don't think we could have timed the AI much better had we tried. Just starting to close up to Ricciardo, I'm guessing Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi. Love the fact as well, Alex Albon on equal cars is running 5th in this GP, of course, courtesy of George Russell and Lando Norris's mechanical failures. But yeah, tyres just starting to go off slightly. Definitely used a tiny bit too much battery as well. Obviously going to completely drain it on the final lap, but you really don't want it running below 10% all too often, otherwise it does cost you quite a bit of time. So yeah, last couple of laps I've just made sure that I'm not using it to make sure that it's constantly above 10% still towards the flag. But yeah, worried now that we're going to have to try and lap some cars. Seems to be chaos going on in the final few corners. It's like 4 cars have retired. I don't know what's going to... What on earth has happened? I don't know how to describe that. What are the odds that you get something like that in a race like this there? We are going to get the DRS, but I'm not going to use it for sake of consistency. But why? Why, of course, when I'm trying to do a race like this, do I get a roadblock like that? That could have been fantastic for a clickbaity career mode episode. But we've just lost 5... Well, we've lost 3 cars, I think, in the space of a couple of turns there. 5 cars now out of this race. And I've now suddenly lapped up to 8th. F122 for you. Right, final lap then here from Zandvoort. We may as well try and push on, see if we can go fastest one final time as we head up over the start-finish line. Let's, well, 14.0, not bad going. Tyre wear apparently is now just starting to get a little bit worse. It's not too sure why the MFD's just flashed up, but we won't worry about that all too much. Of course, yeah, can afford just to use a splash of battery in most of the acceleration zones there, just to give us that extra little bit of horsepower as we round this final lap there. But yeah, to be honest, pretty happy with this race run. Of course, can't help but laugh about what happened with just a few laps to go, but this is F122. You've always got to expect the unexpected there, and should also be expecting to avoid that curve, but apparently going to try and gamble with it one final time in this race. A couple of small errors, of course. We did have that one lap where we were trying to avoid that roadblock, and of course that now in the very last lap of the race, but not going to worry. Don't think it's going to affect my chances of whatever split I end up with in too badly. But yeah, obviously not expected to be, you know, sort of really high up, sort of maybe F5, I don't know. I don't really sort of know how many people have signed up and things like that as well. But out of the final quarter then, we are going to drain the battery here at Zandvoort, and we have survived a 50% race there. Pretty consistent lap times. I'll take it. Right, we're going to make sure as well quickly that I gather up my data from my lap times. So let's just quickly have a look then over the laps. 2 warnings on the out lap. I didn't realise... Oh, those were for collisions, weren't they? But yeah, we'll slowly pan through. They can see most of the laps on the mediums were in the 14s. They can see the in lap was a 16.6 there. And then, yeah, most of the laps on the hards were either low 14s or quite a few in the high 13s later on in the afternoon there. 13.77 was my fastest lap of the day. And there we go, all 36 laps for you guys as well. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. And yeah, we will be back very, very soon with some F122 League Racing.